Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa here on France 24. I'm Fraser Jackson and here are the stories making headlines across the continent this evening. A Belgian court agrees to admit the findings of a 20-year-old parliamentary commission into its investigation. The court is looking into the 1961 assassination of DR Congo's Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba, seen by many as one of the country's founding fathers. The Ebola outbreak in Uganda is growing, with almost 30 confirmed deaths, including 4 health workers. The country is set to discuss the situation with the World Health Organization and the African Centers for Disease Control. And Lesotho votes in parliamentary elections on Friday, but with no clear favourites, another frail coalition could be in store for the country dubbed the Kingdom in the Sky. It's good to have you with us. We begin with a major twist in the Belgian investigation into 1961's assassination of DR Congo Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba. A justice has allowed into the investigation files over 200 binders worthy of findings from a federal parliamentary commission 22 years ago, a decision lauded by Lumumba's descendants. The first democratically elected leader in the country, Lumumba is viewed as one of the fathers of independence. He was ultimately assassinated in a Belgian and US-backed plot. Pierre Benezet has more from Brussels.
It is a relief for the children of Patrice Lumumba. The Brussels Indictments Chamber has decided to include into the investigation file the transcripts of a parliamentary inquiry commission that took place 22 years ago behind closed doors. The children of Patrice Lumumba had lodged a complaint in 2011 in order to shed some light into the death of the first Congolese Prime Minister in 1961.
It's very important because what we're looking for in the end, what the family is looking for, is the truth, and we're fighting for the right to the truth. At some point, we would like to know all the elements that led to this horrific murder, and we hope that with this confidential information, we'll have additional information that will help us complete the case.
A little over 6 months after the independence of Belgian Congo, Patrice Lumumba was assassinated with complicities from within the former colonial power. 22 years ago, a parliamentary inquiry commission concluded to Belgium's moral responsibility. This was not enough for Patrice Lumumba's family, who lodged a complaint in 2011 in order to shed some light onto these complicities from within the former colonial power. When the courts decided a few months ago to seize the transcripts of this parliamentary commission, the president of the chamber decided to have them sealed until a justice decision that was taken this Wednesday.
Parliament cannot betray the secrecy of debate when committees of inquiry are organized behind closed doors. And so this was the issue on the agenda. But there are two conflicting truths. On one hand, the judicial truth, which seeks to shed light. And on the other hand, the parliamentary truth, with the organization of parliamentary work. There are rules of procedure that are backed up by the law, and they had to be respected.
Today, only 2 of the protagonists of this case are still alive, and with every day that goes by, the chances of them being indicted and prosecuted are rapidly diminishing.
Gambia has issued an urgent recall for cough syrups, which are believed to have killed 66 children in the country. The Indian-manufactured medicines are thought to contain high levels of diethylene glycol, which causes acute kidney failure. India is said to be testing samples of the exported medicines and has asked the World Health Organization to share its report into the deaths. Diethylene glycol is used in antifreeze and brake fluids, but is also used as a cheaper alternative in some pharmaceutical products. Uganda's Ebola outbreak is slowly growing in size. At least 29 people are now believed to have died, 4 of whom were health workers, bringing the fatality rate to 69%. Uganda will discuss the situation with the World Health Organization and the African Center for Disease Control. This as the US announced arrivals from the country would now be funneled to 5 airports for screening. Well, for the latest, here's our regional correspondent Clement Di Roma in Kigali.
Ugandans have become increasingly concerned since the detection of the first Ebola case in the country on September 20th. The WHO has said that more than 63 probable and confirmed cases were identified, with nearly half of them now dead. There is a fear that the virus will spread rapidly. The first case was detected on a very busy road in a mining region, Mubende, connected to DR Congo, and only 2 hours away from the capital, Kampala. Ugandans still remember the frightening Ebola epidemic in 2000, which killed 200 people, and know their healthcare system to be quite fragile. The strain responsible for this outbreak is the Sudanese strain. It was last detected in 2012, and there is no vaccine, unlike the strain known in the DRC. However, 2 vaccines are in development, and clinical trials could begin in the coming weeks. Even though the international community is on high alert, the Ugandan government is trying to reassure the population by ruling out any lockdown and responding by training medical workers or setting up new isolation units with their partners. Neighboring countries are also worried. Here in Rwanda, authorities are putting in place strict screenings at the border.
Clement Durumba there for us in Kigali. Ibrahim Traoré has officially been appointed president of Burkina Faso, 1 week on from the country's second coup in less than 9 months. At 34, Traoré is the world's youngest leader. At the end of September, he led a corps of other disgruntled officers to oust former junta leader Damiba, who himself had seized power in January. Both men have cited frustration at failure to stem a jihadist insurgency as their motives for their coups. Let's take a listen to the junta's spokesperson on the latest appointment.
The president of the Patriotic Movement for Safeguarding and Restoration is the guarantor of national independence, territorial integrity, and the permanence and continuity of the state and respect for international treaties and agreements to which Burkina Faso is party. It sets the broad guidelines of state policy, has regulatory powers, and can legislate by ordinance.
Nigeria continues to be besieged by the worst flooding the country has seen in a decade. 7 people were killed in Kogi State after their homes were washed away, with high waters flooding several major roads, stranding thousands. While over half of the country's states have been affected in recent months, the release of excess water from dams in neighbouring Cameroon and unusual rainfall are being blamed for the disaster. Polls will open on Friday in the mountain kingdom of Lesotho as the country votes in parliamentary elections. Since gaining its independence in 1966, the country has seen numerous coups and attempted coups, with a series of frail coalitions holding power within the last 10 years. Carolyn Lamberley takes a look at the field heading into Friday's vote.
Over the past 10 years, no prime minister has survived a full term in office. Lesotho has been ruled by coalition governments for a decade, leaving parliament fractured and often ineffective. Some voters are hoping to see change.
Tomorrow I'm voting, and I'm voting for a political party that will definitely take the country to the highest form of order and the highest form of economic efficiency.
Most definitely we have a problem of unemployment. It's very serious. We have corruption. Our economy is down, so we are hoping that the new government that's going to come is going to make sure that our economy improves so that a lot of youth that is unemployed gets to be employed.
He says he will cast his ballot first thing in the morning, but others are far less optimistic.
Personally, I just feel it's a waste of time because I have better things to do instead of voting and helping people access positions of power only for them to do nothing for us. A lot of people are unemployed, but there they are, running for politics non-stop. To tell you the truth, I've never voted, and I won't. I'm not willing to vote.
I'm not even willing to vote.
Current Prime Minister Mokgweetsi Majoro was ousted as party head earlier this year and won't be seeking another term. His party, the All Lesotho Convention, and the Democratic Congress, the country's second largest party, have both fielded relatively young candidates who could appeal to a large electorate. Analysts say that Sam Matekane, a millionaire believed to be the country's richest man, could be a dark horse. With business ventures spanning diamond mining to farming and medical cannabis, he launched his Revolution for Prosperity party around 6 months ago.
And finally, conflict in the Anglophone regions of Cameroon has uprooted thousands and affected the education of some 600,000 children. Many of them now find themselves trying to restart their studies in a foreign language, having fled to a francophone area for safety. Our team went to one bilingual school, hoping to help its students get their lives back on track.
Singing Cameroon's national anthem in French and in English. These children all come from the country's Anglophone regions, where separatist-fueled violence has raged for nearly 7 years. Forced to flee the conflict, Simplice and his family found refuge in Melong, in Cameroon's Francophone region. Still traumatized by the atrocities he witnessed, the young boy hasn't been to school in nearly 3 years. But he's now back in the classroom and is hoping to make up for lost time.
There was gun. There was many types of condom there. Everything that was inside the school, they burned everything. When they come to the village to come and fight, they will come and be sleeping inside the school. There's no war here, and I'm happy.
Their teacher was also displaced by the conflict. As she tries to help the children move on, she must also reckon with her own painful past.
When I'm teaching like that, I'm forgetting the trauma. But although at times, if I just hear any sound, I must shiver because the experience is still there, the gunshot.
Over 200 schools were destroyed by Anglophone separatists since 2016 in a conflict that's showing little signs of abating. It's already claimed nearly 6,000 lives and displaced over 1 million people, most of them women and children.
Well, that's it for this edition. Stay tuned to France 24.
With Brazilians about to vote in the presidential election, our journalists went to meet the Lula generation. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva was the country's first left-wing president. He instigated sweeping social reforms, student grants, access to free healthcare, affordable housing. But in 2018, he was accused of corruption and jailed, losing many of his activists and supporters. Some idolize him and some deplore him. But what has become of the Lula generation? Watch reporters on France 24 and France24.com. France 24, your economy explained. Liberté, égalité, actualité.